Decimal Digital Currency is a leading cryptocurrency mining infrastructure and technology company based in the United States. It was founded in 2016, and today Decimal operates thousands of rigs across multiple facilities located throughout the U.S. and is rapidly growing. And with me are the co-founders, Roshan Shah and Henry Robinson. Great to have you here. Welcome.
Great to be here. Thank you.
So let's just start with the vision of the company. Roshan, you want to take that?
You know, our vision is really to be one of the largest Bitcoin mining operations in the United States. We want to establish geographic diversity as opposed to a lot of our larger peers who are setting up massive data centers in certain markets, Texas being one of them, that has a large concentration of Bitcoin mining firms. We rather set up smaller boutique data centers across the United States specifically.
Yeah, and let's talk about that geographic diversity. So how do you choose the locations? I assume electricity prices has a lot to do with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's largely based on the cost of power. It also has to do with rule of law and some of the regulatory constraints in certain markets. So, you know, a lot of people are now starting to say that you should be mining outside of the U.S. just given certain taxes that Biden has proposed and certain politicians making some noise around targeting Bitcoin miners specifically given energy consumption.
Yeah.
So we still believe that the United States is the place to operate. We could be in Norway, we could be in Iceland, in certain South American markets, or recently Africa has become a large hotbed for Bitcoin mining activity, specifically Ethiopia and Kenya. But we believe that the United States, from a rule of law perspective, is going to continue to be the main Bitcoin mining hub globally.
Interesting. And I want to talk a little bit more about regulation in a minute, but just explain overall the company. How do you fit into the cryptocurrency backbone and the ecosystem of the industry?
Yeah, so by definition, we are the backbone of the Bitcoin network. So we are processing transactions, validating transactions on the Bitcoin network, and that's really what we do and how we're compensated as well.
And you've got a lot of investors. Explain who's backing you.
So we have, so far, it's all friends and family. Some of them are family offices, larger family offices. We have some ultra high net worth individuals. It's pretty fun. We have some professional athletes as well. We have a Super Bowl winning NFL quarterback.
Can you name names?
Probably not with the quarterback, but I can tell you that just last week, or sorry, earlier this week, we have Stephon Diggs, who's a Pro Bowl wide receiver now with the Houston Texans, who just joined Decimal as an investor.
Okay, let's talk about regulation. I mean, how do you see the regulatory landscape right now? It feels like it was really confusing for a while. There's definitely been some vocal critics, but there's been a lot of support. Coinbase is doing some things. How do you see that?
That's right. I mean, I think we're in kind of a period of transition. You know, there's been, like you said, a lot of confusion, right? People didn't know what to do. People don't know what cryptocurrencies are or what Bitcoin is. And as legislators are learning more about it, and their advisors are learning more, they're starting to make more thoughtful legislation, right? They're starting to put more thoughtful rules into place, and we think that'll continue. So, you know, of course, the most important efforts are protecting consumers. You know, we think that cleaning up the cryptocurrency industry is the most important thing, because then it's really ready for mainstream adoption.
Yeah, it was just what I was going to ask. I mean, because it feels like regulation is needed for people to feel comfortable. I mean, there was, I think, a Pew Research Center survey recently. A lot of people have heard of it, but they're scared to invest in it. So do you think regulation might help with that?
Regulation and especially education, right? This is a brand new technology, and people need to learn how to use it. They need to learn best practices for protecting it, for keeping their assets safe. You know, just like you have a set of rules that you follow with your bank account, right? Information that you don't share with other people. It's the same way for cryptocurrency. There's a new set of rules for protecting it. And once that gets proliferated, you know, more adoption can happen.
And security is another thing too that you mentioned. How do you make sure that the accounts and that you manage are secure?
Sure. So, you know, from top to bottom, it's an effort, right? Every single, you know, we treat our company like a castle, and we have walls, we have soldiers, we have moats, right? We have a drawbridge, we have all different layers of security that all target different kinds of threats. We use single-use terminals for all of our trading. Our cold storage, our keys are segregated or separated. You know, we 100% focus on making it so that even we can't steal it. Right? So how could some outside actor do who doesn't have complete access?
Interesting. Who are your customers?
Customers, so it's mostly Bitcoin mining, what's special about it is it's a way to get exposure to Bitcoin in a very tax-advantaged way that creates not just monthly, right, daily, really cash flow. Every 10 minutes we get awarded cash flow. So it's a highly liquid yielding, right? It's great for a compounding investment. And if someone wants exposure to Bitcoin and they come into Bitcoin mining, we might produce a Bitcoin for $35,000 right now, but on the market it sells for more than 70. Right?
Yeah.
I think I saw 71, 72 this morning.
Yeah.
So if you could
It's
go
like a
back
record
and
high.
right,
Close to
almost,
it. Yeah.
almost. So
Yeah.
if you could go back in time and buy Bitcoin when it was half its price now, why wouldn't you?
So explain how it works then. If somebody's interested in doing that, do they set up an account with you, or what's the process?
So we actually have an offering that we launched about a year ago, where essentially any individual, high net worth individual or family office, whoever it may be, can come to us and say, you know what, we want to get exposure to Bitcoin. We want to have access to Bitcoin mining. We would go out, we would procure Bitcoin mining machines on their behalf. We have unbelievably competitive cost we have great purchasing power given our scale and how many machines we're buying each and every month. So the machines would sit on their balance sheet. They would own them. They would get all the depreciation. We would deploy those machines at one of our data centers, and we're always expanding and gaining more data centers. And then we would handle every aspect of the mining process for them. So getting the machines racked, energized, we would handle the firmware, we would handle the energy hedging, we would handle the liquidation, the treasury, you name it. So every week we liquidate Bitcoin. At the end of the month, we take all the Bitcoin that we've accumulated for that investor, we pay the power bill, and then we have a profit sharing arrangement. Okay. So as Henry mentioned, why would you go out today and buy Bitcoin at a near all-time high of 72,000 when you could be mining and accumulating it at 35,000 roughly or below? And so, we think that it provides investors with a large buffer for protection if the price falls. So if you went out and bought Bitcoin today at 72,000 and the price drops to 50, you're going to be taking a paper loss.
Yeah.
With us, if you deploy with Bitcoin mining today and the price of Bitcoin falls to 50 or 40, you're still making money every day.
Yeah, interesting. I didn't even know that was a possibility. So what about your growth plans?
Our plans are to continue to gain investors who want to get responsible and hedged exposure to Bitcoin. We want to continue to acquire more sites and establish geographic diversity across the United States. And then we've got some pretty interesting, let's just call it hedging and treasury management tools that we're rolling out. Henry could speak further to that. We think, frankly, that most miners are not being innovative and are frankly being a bit reckless with how they manage Bitcoin mining, and we want to do things differently. I mean, you can take even some of the largest publicly traded Bitcoin miners that have multi-billion-dollar market capitalizations. Frankly, we don't think they're giving their investors adequate exposure to Bitcoin mining and largely are diluting their shareholders.
Interesting. And what about some of the new products? Can you share those?
Absolutely. So within our SMA offering, a new layer that we're adding in is our treasury management. So over the last 12 months, we've been participating in derivatives on top of our Bitcoin mining. So what I mean by that is we're buying and selling the actual computing power. Just like how an oil company would hedge their oil production, right? We're taking the thousands of year old lessons of commodity businesses and we're applying them to Bitcoin mining. And as Roshan said, if you look out into the public markets, that doesn't really exist. If you buy a share of a public Bitcoin mining company, you might get 20 times as much exposure to Bitcoin mining by going and buying a machine yourself. There's very little case for for buying these companies right now, and without robust hedging, the risk in buying them is very, very high because now they're basically all their life is tied to the price of Bitcoin in the short term.
Yeah, interesting. And what about cryptocurrency in general? You can both weigh in on this. Where do you see that industry going?
I'll start.
Okay.
I think you're going to see mass adoption. Maybe not from our generation, but with our children and even my younger son, the TikTok and Snapchat generation. Payments digitally is going to be the future. You look at eBay's announcement this week. They're banning American Express. Right. You can't use American Express on eBay within a few weeks because people are realizing merchants are realizing why would I pay 3.5% or close to 4% transaction fees, or what they call them swipe fees, with Bitcoin, you can transfer $1 billion nearly instantaneously for a few bucks. So I think that you will see Bitcoin take over. I think you're going to see it embed itself into the global financial system. It's happening as these sovereign wealth funds and pension funds and large institutions like BlackRock and Fidelity start, as they continue to gain momentum. I think a lot of credibility is being gained. And people are realizing that Bitcoin is really here to stay.
Yeah, and it feels like the ETFs that was a major move toward adoption. What are your thoughts?
ETF, gigantic move towards adoption, particularly because it allows pensions to get into Bitcoin. We saw teachers' pensions start to put money into it. We see Wells Fargo, right? Major banks are putting money into these ETFs. It created a vehicle that anybody can buy into. When before buying actual physical Bitcoin, many firms could not. And now we're seeing, we just saw a healthcare company buy now 587 Bitcoin, a public healthcare company, following MicroStrategy's, let's say, U.S. dollar debt play, right? And their stock appreciated heavily after that was announced.
Semler Scientific up 40% same day when they announced that they were using Bitcoin for their treasury.
Yeah. I mean, it's very interesting because it does feel like we're on the cusp of something, but I think there are a few things need to happen, like the regulation and all of that needs to happen before we see mass adoption. But thank you so much for coming in, Roshan and Henry. I appreciate hearing all about the company.
This was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.